What's up, sports fans? Welcome to another edition of the DC Sports Huddle. And as you know, it is brought to you by our friends at MGM National Harbor. It is time to change the game at BetMGM Sports. I am Rob Woodfork. Dave Johnson under the weather this week, so I will be behind the wheel alongside my buddies here, Dave Preston and George Wallace, who is right now.
Buddies? Are we buddies?
I mean, we are buddies, man. I was at your wedding.
No, you weren't.
I was
I
not.
sang
We're still
at your
buddies.
wedding.
I was
We're
not
still
at your
buddies.
wedding. Now,
We're still buddies.
to be fair, you got married like right around the time we met, so it would have been weird if I
Yeah.
was at your wedding. But
Right.
in any event, he's out at Ashburn checking out Commanders practice. Hey, look, guys, they're actually in position to go 2-0 for the first time in over a decade. What's the injury situation? That's of the utmost concern, George.
Yeah, and look, Cam Curl, the biggest one as far as I'm concerned. He's, from what we saw today, again, doing individual drills on the practice field. He's got the thumb wrapped, and he said yesterday, basically, he's getting there. I would be surprised if he doesn't play this week. That's kind of the way I took from what he was saying in the locker room yesterday. Wes Schweitzer, on the other hand, don't know. Had the hamstring injury. He was on the side field today. Jonathan Allen was going through individual drills. There's nothing keeping him out of the game. I'll promise you that. Going into Sunday, Cole Holcomb was a new addition to the side field. We don't know what's going on there, but other than that, seems to be pretty much okay. Hopefully, if Cam Crow gets out there, that's going to be huge.
Yeah, and I mean, he's like sort of that Swiss Army knife in that defense, and they certainly missed him on Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, a very interesting tidbit going into this game is that the Commanders are actually the underdogs in Detroit, and that's notable because the Detroit Lions have been underdogs at least up until this point in 24 straight games. A historic streak, and it's basically over now. And it sort of calls to mind the question: Washington seems to do its best work when nobody is believing in them or when nobody thinks that they can do it. And not that Detroit is this, juggernaut that nobody's given them a chance to beat, but when they're an underdog, they tend to play better. Am I right, Dave Preston?
Yeah.
Well, I think along those lines, Rob, they are Washington over the years has been the classic thermometer team as opposed to a thermostat team. They play right to the level of their opponents. So when they're not expected to win, they exceed expectations. When they are expected to win, they find a way not to meet those expectations. An interesting thing about Detroit, Rob, they were an underdog in every game last season. They went 10-7 numbers. So if you're out there maybe with a gambling interest this upcoming Sunday, the Lions are awesome as a betting side because they are the classic backdoor cover squad as well. They were down big, 2 meaningless touchdowns, so to speak, this past Sunday. They wind up covering against the Eagles. I think what's important for Washington is that they have to approach every game. They can't even think about Jacksonville anymore, and they can't look ahead to Philadelphia, even though that's Carson Wentz's former team. He's in a bit of a situation right now where he just beat his former coach and he's about to face his former franchise. He has to focus on the team that they're going to be taking on this week. And this is a squad that put 35 points on the board against an Eagles team that I think a lot of us, especially since Dallas's demise, is going to be the top team in the NFC East this season. So this is going to be a very tough contest for Washington coming up, especially with the injuries that George has mentioned on both sides of the ball.
And actually, Detroit, if you look behind enemy lines, they're also pretty banged up. Frank Ragnow, for my money, is one of the best centers in the league, if not the best. And that's a guy who is, he's banged up right now. And the one knock on him is that when he's hurt, he's not nearly as effective, which I guess is true of a lot of people. But they've got two starting offensive linemen who are on the injury list. And you saw the massive game that Swift had. He's on the injury list. So those are big losses for Detroit if those guys don't play. And even if they play, they're banged up. So this is going to be a big challenge for the Washington defense, George.
Yeah, and look, I think that is that's a huge deal, the injuries on that side of the ball. I mean, because that's that has me leaning my prediction this week, because I thought, the way Washington played last week, let's be honest, Jacksonville was pretty competent. They win that game. I mean,
right.
many drops, penalties, fumbles. So I think not fumbles, but drop passes off shoulder pads. So I think, going into this week, I was thinking Lions were going to win this game, but now with the do get Cam Curl back, if I think that could change a lot. I think the injuries are a big part of it for the Lions, because especially with Swift, because stopping the run, look, Washington was better against third down last week, but the run defense wasn't that good. So you got to kind of put it all together at some point. So if your weakness last week was stopping the run and the Lions top guy is not 100%, I kind of like my odds there.
Yeah,
and for the record,
they gave up 6.8 yards per carry to a Jaguars team that really didn't have any massive chunk plays. It's one thing if it's skewed by like a 70-yard run or something like that, but they just kind of death by paper cuts there, Dave Preston.
Yeah. And you can only play the team in front of you. A handful of things that I think we saw Sunday against the Jaguars that I think will not carry over necessarily. One was the play of Curtis Samuel. I think it was in the game plan early and often. Get this guy, the free agent last year who had, I think, 10 touches over the course of the entire injury-riddled season. Get him the ball early and often. I think he had 5 touches in the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken. He had 8 catches, 4 runs. I don't think he's going to be as productive against the Lions this upcoming week. I also think that Washington's not going to be as good in getting off the field on third down. They held the Jaguars to 3 of 12 on third down. There were some drop passes, as we mentioned. Also, it's the Jaguars we're talking about as well. And even though the Lions were just as bad last year, they were the other 3-win team in the league. I think that they're a little bit further on the path to be a competitive squad. So I don't see Washington excelling in those categories, but I still think that they're the better team with the injuries taken into account with the Lions. For the record, before the season, I had them going 6-8-3. This is one of the 3 ties that I had. So take that as it will.
We got to go under 2 ties with this guy. So all right. So we were talking about like basically when Washington's on defense. When Washington has the ball, that is actually low key my biggest concern, because if you saw that Lions-Eagles game from last week, the Lions defense, and they got killed on the ground, but they were stopping Jalen Hurts in that Philly offense from passing the ball pretty effectively. He was held to an 80.6 passer rating. And Jeff Okudah, that's the guy I'm watching. And we heard Terry McLaurin, and by the way, happy birthday, Terry McLaurin, happy 27th. He was talking about his former Ohio State teammate Jeff Okudah and talking about how good he is and all of that. This guy was the former 3rd overall pick in the draft. And so he's trying now in year 2 under this Lions regime, he's trying to start to earn the reputation that comes with being the 3rd overall pick in the draft. He's been nowhere near that to this point. Washington can't make him a star. They can't make him a star and get him on people's radar. And, watching what Carson Wentz did against Jacksonville, yes, he did some great things. Yes, he threw for 300 yards, had 4 touchdowns, and rallied in the fourth quarter to win the game. Give him all credit due for that. But the 2 picks were bad. And so, if Jeff Okudah, and there was I think the passer rating, I guess it was like 58.6 or something to that extent. They weren't.
Are you going by QBR or are you going by traditional passer rating?
They were going by the passer rating. So
okay, cool.
Makes it a little, 58 QBR is actually not terrible, but passer rating wise, people were not getting easy completions on him. He was a tough out for them. So if he's going to ball out, I mean, you can't have him get a pick 6. You can't have him turn the game around, in Detroit's favor. You can't turn, as a matter of fact, you can't turn the ball over if you're Washington in this game.
I think that this past week, Washington played poorly, but won a game perhaps that maybe they deserve to lose. I think they go into Jacksonville this Sunday. I think they play well. They play well enough to win, but it winds up being a freak thing like a pick 6 or, some of the plays that weren't big plays this past Sunday that could have been against them. Those come to fruition. The NFL is a week-to-week league, guys. And we've seen, believe it or not, the Lions used to be, I guess, the surf of Washington way back when. They Burgundy and Gold used to dominate Detroit, in the playoffs and the regular season, what have you, especially at home, whether it was at RFK or at FedEx Field. But 5 of the last 6 games have gone the Lions' way, and they've won a lot of these games in frustrating manner. This reminds me of when Arizona was in the NFC East, and for whatever reason, Washington had the better team, but would go out west and would somehow find a way to lose 16-15 on a safety and a blocked extra point or something like that. That's what I see this Sunday's, guys. I see a 21-20 frustrating finish where Washington comes up short and they have to answer a lot of questions before the game against the Eagles.
First of all, I was just getting over the Aeneas Williams scoop and score end zone to end zone against Arizona. So thanks for thanks for bringing that up.
You never get over it.
Yeah, you don't get over it. So I mean, it kind of sounds like you're sort of leaning in the direction of Detroit here.
Yes, I am, but they don't cover. That's the irony of this whole thing. They were a great backdoor cover, and finally they're favored, and they don't cover the number, which is 2.5, I believe, at this point.
Well, I mean, that's our buddy Chris Cheon's department, so I don't know the betting aspect of this, but look, I think one thing has to be said. I know, and George said that, Washington's the better team. I agree, but slightly. So it's like, this is a game, this is the most winnable game on your schedule, maybe all year. And I think the thing that, has to be said also is that Detroit is probably saying the same thing about Washington. But the thing is, if you look at Washington's slate moving forward, and I was just reading the Washington Post said, where it was kind of tongue in cheek saying, hey, Washington might mess around and go 6-1. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, you got Green Bay, you got, Chicago's no great shakes, but you got them on a short week. I'm looking at the next 8 weeks, and there's no gimmies for Washington moving forward. Not that Detroit is a gimme, but this is the most winnable game you have on your schedule. And if you don't win this game, then that has to create some level of doubt, not just from us on the outside, but maybe within the locker room about how we're going to go forward, George. Am I crazy on this or what?
No, you're not. You're never crazy, buddy.
I appreciate you, fam.
Crazy.
I appreciate you.
Except
for the Cam Newton thing. You don't like my Cam Newton things.
He shall not be named.
It's a new year, fresh start for me. Listen, I think, first of all, you can't look ahead. You gotta, and we go week to week in this league. Okay, pal. Okay. We're focused on the next.
We're just trying to go 1-0 every day. Like Davey Martinez.
Coach speak. But look, I think, last week they got away with one, however you want to put it. Yes. Carson Wentz threw 4 touchdowns. That's fine. Here's also, what did he have? 7 picks, right? Each of the last 2 years only. So kind of for him to throw 2 picks in a game, and Trayvon Walker made a hell of a play.
Yes.
On the second interception.
Yeah.
So I think that I was leaning towards Detroit after watching Sunday's game against Jacksonville, but now I think with the injuries, and I really think that Scott Turner deserves a lot of credit for Sunday and what he was able to do with the offense. And I think he's going to come up with that again. I think Washington's going to play some pretty good football. And to your point about it being winnable, and it's still the Lions. And look, I said from jump that these first 2 weeks are must wins, and I'm going to stay with it. And I think they escaped Detroit with a win. I think they're going to put up some points too. They'll put up maybe 27, 28 points like last week. And I'm going to go with Washington by a touchdown. I think that unless they come out and completely, go backwards and heading into Philly, then you got some problems. But I think that they're going to bounce back and realize they got away with one. But again, it's week 1, like we've talked about. However you get a win, you get a win. It doesn't matter. It all counts the same. So now you got a chance to look at Detroit, who is dealing with some injuries. And I think this team has now built some confidence. Guys didn't realize that they hadn't been 2-0 since 2011. I think they're kind of like, well, okay, we have a chance to do something here. So I think it'd be a big confidence boost for this team to get this win Sunday.
But also, I think it tells you who they are if they go out and win this game. If they go out and they have some good, clean, crisp execution,
good, clean,
and they
fun.
go out
good,
there,
clean, fun.
If they go out there and have some good, clean fun at Detroit's expense, and and I'm not going to even go as far as a blowout, but if you go out there and you win a game by 8 points and you look good doing it, there's not a lot of doubt that you're going to win the game. You're in control of the game. You're not out there throwing picks and giving it away and giving Detroit an opportunity to get back in it, then I think that says a lot about them. I mean, because yes, you're going to have those games where, things get weird, or you have a letdown for a quarter, or a half, or whatever that is. And, you got to find a way to win. And they did that on Sunday. But if that's what it's going to be every week, then that means you're winning on accident. You're not really winning because you're good. Right, Dave Preston?
But hold on. But I will say this to your point on that. And Ron and the guys said this week that not once when they got after that second interception, did they hang their heads and say, here we go again. Whether that's true or not, that's fine. But Carson still had to come back and throw those 2 touchdowns. So I do give him credit on that. Okay, yeah, they didn't quit. They shouldn't have been in that spot, but they were, and they somehow found a way to get it done. So I think that deserves some credit as well.
And along those lines, I think, when you look at the 17-game schedule now, was 16 previously. Football is the most random sport as far as a chance for variation of what the team's record is to actually how good they are. Think of it as definition pixels. Baseball's 162. So the variation between how good you actually are to what your record is very minimal. Basketball, hockey, 80, 82 game seasons. It's a little bit more of a chance for things to be fuzzy. Football, you can be much better than your record and much worse than your record, but your record is who you are. And the last couple of years, they have not gotten off to good starts over the first month under head coach Ron Rivera, even though they have bounced back later in both seasons. And so even though I think that they should win this game, until this team starts winning games in the manner that George addressed, where it's okay, it's not a blowout, but it's not one of those you're hanging on for dear life with a minute to play. Until they do that consistently under this regime, I'm still going to have my doubts.
That's fair.
So Dave is picking against Washington on Sunday. Did you give a score prediction? Yeah, all right. So you said 31-20?
No, 21-20. Either the classic backdoor cover for the Burgundy and Gold, where they're down 21-12 and get a late touchdown, or a pick six with 2 minutes to play. Whatever it is, we're going to be watching until 4:33 p.m. Eastern time, because this game isn't going to end quickly.
God, that was so specific.
I
bet you he's got action on that too, like what time the game ends. George,
wait a minute.
did you
You
do
said this
prediction?
was going to be. Yeah, I said 27-20 Washington. But wait, didn't you say 6-8-3? This is going to be a tie?
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season, I thought it was going to be a tie, and some of those ties get moved around.
Oh, okay. All right.
This guy, man, I can't with the ties. Here's the thing. This is what stops me, because I hate ties so much. I hate them.
How about guys, before we move on, how about just the theater of the NFL Sunday afternoon in week 1? Despite everything wrong that the league does from an image standpoint, this, that, the other thing, games in London at 9:30 a.m., these short turnarounds for Thursday night, NFL theater is at its best from 3:45 p.m. to 4:30 in the afternoon. So many games decided in the final 2 minutes, Washington's being one of those, or overtime, and then a game that was not decided in overtime. Thank you for the 10-minute OT, Roger Goodell. I've
written the column about how terrible ties are so many times that I don't even have the energy to recount it. So now I just link it to,
and they've made it easier for ties to happen.
Like I link it to what I wrote in 2013, and then I'm just like ditto.
Evergreen tweets.
I can't
see above.
Yeah, right.
All right,
right.
practice is
my previous
be over in a few minutes.
What's that?
Do you get to run sprints?
Practice is gonna be over in a few minutes. I got to.
Okay.
I got to run some sprints.
So then we'll do the hurry up here, and George. Well, actually, I got to give my prediction real quick. I'm gonna say I'm gonna pull a Dave Preston. I'm gonna say Washington 21-20 by the same score.
Ooh.
All right. And here's the thing, man. Washington 10, and as much as we think that they win as that they usually win as underdogs, they're actually over since the beginning of the 2019 season. They're actually 10-29 as an underdog. Now, some of those are against really good teams, So you kind
Small
of have to filter
sample
that out a little
size,
bit.
39
But
games.
I'm gonna say Washington wins this game. It's gonna be close, and they're gonna do a better job of protecting the football, and that's gonna be the key to victory. Because low key, I think the Lions are better than people think they are, and even I
Oh, yeah.
predicted in my NFL preview. All right, so we're gonna
Real
go
quick, something funny from Sam Cosme yesterday, talking
Yeah.
about, I asked some of the guys about watching Hard Knocks, and he said he watched it and his girlfriend watched it, and then he would literally pause it, rewind, pause it, rewind. She's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm watching film. Like I'm watching what the Lions are doing." We play it when
Yeah,
we
seriously.
Look, man, they didn't specify what film you're supposed to watch. They just said do film study. So
That's right.
he's just following orders. All right, the go in the hurry up. George has to hurry up and go back to practice. So George, what's on your mind going into week 2 here?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting for me to see what Dallas does with quarterback. I don't think there's any way Prescott comes back after 4 weeks. I'm no doctor. Jerry Jones is the doctor, not me. But he had a plate put in his thumb. It's his throwing thumb. Are you really going to ride with Cooper Rush for the next month and a half?
But also,
really
here's
gonna
the
do
thing, but also here's the thing, and I this always cracks me up when I start seeing this stuff, because immediately after that injury, everybody was like, "Hey, Cam Newton's out there. Hey, Colin Kaepernick's out there," and I was one of those people. But also,
Or Jimmy G, go trade for Jimmy
right,
G.
or trade for Jimmy G. This is not basketball. If you're going to get a quarterback,
Right.
he has to know the offense better than anybody on the field. You're not going to get a guy. This isn't
Right.
Madden. You're not going to sign a guy off the street and then he's going to play well for you immediately. I mean, that's what got Cam Newton in trouble going back to Carolina
Right.
last year. So
Carolina.
you've already made your bed at quarterback. The time to get an adequate backup for Dak Prescott was in the offseason. And it mystifies me that that they refuse to get and maybe some of it is because they're paying him so much and they're paying Zeke so much. Maybe they don't have money for to adequately address that. But I mean, I don't understand how you go into the season with Cooper Rush as your backup to begin with. So I think that's going to end up and you look at their schedule, the front end of the season. Bye, Dallas. I mean, that's a wrap. I mean, they're pretty much done. If they do anything better than 2-4 to start, I'm going to be surprised.
Thank goodness for the 17th game to give him a chance to get things back. My audible at the line of scrimmage, which we'll get to in just a bit, will be about the college football weekend. But my NFL hurry up offense involves another quarterback. San Francisco's Trey Lance did not play well last Sunday against Chicago, although you could say it's because the Niners were playing at 1 p.m. Eastern, also known as 10 a.m. their time. I think San Francisco's got a lot of questions surrounding the quarterback situation. When they say when you've got 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. They have 2, and they almost made the Super Bowl last year, and they could blow up and go belly up, Rob, if they don't get their stuff in order pronto.
And here's the thing. I thought that they have such and obviously I don't have to come off this prediction yet because they've only played 1 game and it was on the road. And as you said, it was early, but I mean, I picked the 49ers to be really good this year. I picked them to win 13 games before the season, just because I think the team that they have in place around Lance would allow him, especially in a Shanahan offense, to play at a higher level than perhaps he's ready to be. So I thought they were going to feast on the regular season and just be one and done in the playoffs or something like that. But, man, it's looking like it might be messy there in San Francisco. It certainly looked messy on the Denver sideline in that Monday nighter. And I've already ranted on this online and on air about this. So I'm not going to even go into all the ways that Nathaniel Hackett is an idiot for doing what he did.
His last name sounds familiar, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's funny you say that, because that leads to the point. Number 1, how many black coaches in the NFL are going to be able to keep their job at the end of the season after doing some stuff like that, especially if Denver ends up being last place in that division? And remember, that's the most stacked division maybe in NFL history. So that's a very real possibility. And the second thing is it calls to mind this thing that I always like to bring up whenever we go through the hiring cycle in the NFL. Everybody falls in love with play callers. Everybody falls in love with the offensive genius and da-da-da-da-da. Drawing up X's and O's is great and it's valuable, but it's exactly that. That's an a coordinator skill set. That doesn't necessarily translate to being the head coach. The head coach's job is not to create, the offense and all of that. He's supposed to delegate that to the offensive coordinator. So all that to say, the head coach's function is to, at the end of a game on the road, you got to make the right calls. You got to make the right moves, managing the game, managing the team, leading up to game day. That is where the value is in a head coach. And all the time, NFL owners are hiring these guys who don't have that skill set and have never demonstrated that skill set. So it's just another reminder. Just because a guy's a great coordinator doesn't mean he's going to be a great head coach. And in fact, history suggests that he's probably not going to be.
It's called the Peter Principle. You're promoted to the level of your incompetence more often than not,
Correct.
So, audible at the line of scrimmage, because I know we're running out of time, Rob. Huge weekend ahead in college football. First and foremost for Maryland, they wrap up non-conference play by hosting an unbeaten SMU team that's averaging 47 points per game. So if there's one question surrounding this Maryland team that has a lot of firepower on their own, Talia Tagovailoa, co-Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week this past Saturday in their victory at Charlotte. The question is surrounding this team, can they defend in the Big Ten? And can they defend some of these high-octane offenses that you see at Ohio State? Michigan's able to put up points. Penn State's able to score in bunches as well. This SMU team can score just as well as any of them. Tanner Mordecai threw 39 touchdown passes last season. I had a chance to see him, play very well in Annapolis in a game where they beat Navy last year. And if Maryland isn't able to contain him, that will be that could be a bad omen for Big Ten season. This is one of those classic Saturday night shootouts that I don't think the game's going to end before 11 or 12. Like I could very well be leaving the press box at 1 because this looks like a 45-42 shootout where the team that has the possession of the football last for a significant amount of time winds up winning with under a minute to go.
All right. So basically pack a lunch when you
and
go to
dinner and breakfast for the next day.
All right. And don't forget to check out Dave Presto's picks on Fridays and the College Football Corner on Mondays, all on WTOP.com. And this has been another edition of the DC Sports Huddle, sponsored by MGM National Harbor. It's time to change the game at BetMGM Sports. I am Rob Woodfork signing us off, and alongside Dave Preston, George Wallace, in the middle of one of Dave's sentences, I might add, just kind of left. So we're going to have to talk to him about his about the way he operates. But until the next time, enjoy the games. And of course, we'll break it down here in next week's edition. But for now, breaking the huddle.